Hi, I'm James and welcome to today's review where we're going to look at Warlord's black powder starting set, the Battle of Waterloo. Now, normally I don't do a second take on these. I have done a second take on this one. This is take 2. The reason being, take 1, when I did the initial unboxing, I found an issue. I bought this new off eBay and it was missing a few of the figures. So it was still sealed, so it wasn't the seller's fault. So I contacted Warlord, explained the position, and their customer service deserves a 10 out of 10. Within a couple of days the replacement figures had arrived and I've put them in, and basically going to do the second take of it. So thank you Warlord Games. The fact it had been bought off eBay, they still dealt with it straight away. They didn't make me go back to the seller or anything like that, so 10 out of 10 for that. So set itself then, it's interesting in that it's probably the big battle, isn't it, of Napoleonic times. If you ask anybody, a member of the public, to name a famous battle from Napoleonic times, Waterloo would probably be up there, possibly Trafalgar, but Waterloo would be the highest. Now, it's a bit annoying that the British Army decided to change uniform midway through the Napoleonic Wars, as did the French, so it does have to be quite a specific set. And we'll mention that when we look at the uniforms. But it's a massive box. The sheer weight of it is unreal, and when you realise that's predominantly plastic, that's even more scary. So let's have a look what we get. Yeah, you can see how packed it was by the fact that when I've tried to repack it, I've struggled. You can see that I couldn't get this top piece fit in again. So, first thing we've got is a bit of a history leaflet all about Waterloo. Okay, we've got the history, going through it, nicely illustrated with the rather lavish photos. And then you get the quick start rules. Now, I've never played black powder. I picked this up for basically its value. It's an incredible value set, but it does give me a very quick start rule, so I'm probably actually going to try them. It gives you your unit formations, what your army consists of, how it's based, sequence of play and how to move, the blunder chart. I always like little things like that being in there. Rules for shooting, rules for hand-to-hand combat, and some simple unit profiles there, and tables at the end. So actually I haven't played black powder. When I do, I'll put a battle report on. So a nice little starting book. I always like to see a starting book in a beginner's set. Now, you then get the full black powder rulebook in a nice A5 edition. Now you can see why I say starter rules are quite useful. Again, I'll probably do a separate review of this, but we have a contents. Yeah. Again, all the usual lavish illustrations, pulling obviously from their Ospreys as collaboration as well. That's always going to give you good illustrations. There's lots of little sort of sidebars giving you information. You can see here, that is covered by about a paragraph in the quick start rules. Rules on formations. We've got 4 pages as opposed to sort of the one on there. Nice to see. Soldiers' humour as a sidebar. So the rules themselves, obviously they're a bit longer than what you've got there. Rules here are going up to, there we go, page 85. Then you move into advanced rules. Covers things like rockets, untested units. Yeah. Then you come into the scenarios. Okay, gives you a nice little set of scenarios, and you see there is how big a period black powder covers, because we're talking there from the, just looking at that, from the English Civil War through to the American Civil War, through to the Zulu War. I'm not sure when that one took place. I'll pick up on that in a minute. It's got a massive range of scenarios. Now the scenarios are not necessarily small ones. Black Powder is designed for a bit of the antithesis of what I normally game. It's designed to play it on a massive table. You know, I know it's very much a bit of a love it or hate it. But yeah, you got that quick reference sheets in there, and an index. Now, I always love when there's an index in rulebooks. People who watch the channel regularly will know that, because you can find a rule quickly. So we've got the rulebook, lovely rulebook, worth a fair bit in itself, in all honesty, for something like that. Now, I like what they've done here. To protect the figures, we've got a card insert, which has got a quick reference sheet on it. But then on the two of the sides, you've got casualty markers. You've got one for the French and one for the British. I like that. That's a quick, simple thought. What I'm probably going to do with those is actually do a copy of them and laminate them before I use them. Then I've always got more if they start getting tatty. So yeah, that's a nice little touch. Now then we come to the figures. Now there is a figure count on the back of the box, but it's wrong. You actually get more than they tell you. Now, it's not many manufacturers will do that. So we'll start with the smallest. Well, no, I've mixed them in. So start with this pile, which are the British. Now you get 10 sprues of British. Okay, 5 figures on each. Now Warlord said 48 figures. My maths isn't brilliant, but 10 fives are 50, so we've got a couple of extra figures in there. Now figures themselves, okay, all in marching poses. One of my little bugbears is they obviously haven't got a drummer, because they're out of step. It is one of the downsides of this box set, is there are no command figures. You will need to add command figures to it if you want them. And units don't really look right without them, but that's not a huge outlay. For the starter set, there's a lot in here. So what do we get on this sprue? We've got the 5 marching figures, we've got 5 packs, couple of slight variations on them, which is always nice. One's got a set of mess tins on the outside, one it's a rounded, I'm not sure if that's a different pattern mess tins. So we've got that. Now you will have to build them with the packs, because they're moulded with a small hole on the back to put them in, and the cross straps aren't modelled underneath the pack. You've also got a little very useful little touch. Let me just get a pointer for this. I don't know if you can see there, we've actually got 2 little wings for marking the flank companies. So 1 in 5 figures can either be a light or a grenadier. Okay, that's useful. And then we've got the heads. So we've got a total of 7 heads. They've all got the false fronted 1815 pattern shako, except for one who's bareheaded. Now that was worn by everybody on the campaign, except for, I believe, the 28th Regiment of Foot, who had the old what they call a peninsular pattern version. So you've got something that will be usable with the bulk of the infantry. Useful if you've got some figures for the peninsula, you can grab one unit and claim it's them. So we've got the figures there. So 40 each, they said. In reality, 50 British figures. So yeah, that's useful. We've then got their opponents, the French, and we have one too many. We have with these 8 frames with 6 on each, so you've got 48 French. So that does match what they say is on the box. Now the French figures, again, there's the issue with them being out of step. and the lack of command figures. Okay, we've then got 6 packs, and again you would need to put these on because of the strapping is there for them and the hole. You could fill the hole, put the strapping in. I think that's more effort than it's worth. Now these are wearing great cuts, which at least that makes figure painting easier. I'm fairly new to the period, but I'm dreading painting them. Now the packs I love. The French packs are always full of character. If you see my review of the earlier French infantry, you'll see these have got the same sort of things. You've got they're not quite the same. There's a new one in there which I quite like. You've got one with a mug hanging off, a string of onions, that's very French, a pair of shoes, that's a good one, a mess tin, and then you've got 2 without anything, but with the short sword that was issued to the Grenadiers and the Voltigeurs, the 2 specialist companies within a French unit. Now, this time, unlike the 1807 to 1810 infantry, we've got a better ratio because we've got 6 figures, 2 of which are the specialists, which actually means that you're going to have the correct ratio. So we've got those, and then we've got the Shako heads, predominantly covered. There's a couple there, is that uncovered? It's hard to tell without getting very close. We've got one with the floppy hat, which someone always referred to as the chef's hat. Yeah, I like that one. A bare head. So actually, I'm just looking, are the bare-headed figures different? Slightly, I think. So if that's the case, I could always swap a couple of bare heads. But yeah, again, nice infantry. So 48 of those. We then move on to the Hanoverians, which are the British allies. It's often forgotten with Waterloo that it was very much a coalition victory. I think in Britain that's often forgotten. So the Hanoverians then, they look very similar to the British, mainly because a lot of them were wearing British uniform. You've got the 5 packs, exactly the same by the look of it as the British. In fact, let's have a look at the infantry. I think you'd be hard pressed to find anything different. I think the infantry are the same. I think the only difference appears to be the heads. Now I'm going to do some more research on that, because if that's the case, with having 7 heads there, I've got enough to do some extra British as opposed to Hanoverian. And there is actually on the Hanoverian heads a bare head as well. So effectively I could put it up to 8. Pull the French we get a lot of bare-headed troops. Pull the French ones in, and yeah, I could probably go for a larger unit of British, smaller unit of Hanoverians. So the Hanoverians have got the flat caps, 6 with those, and 1 bare-headed, which is definitely a different bare-headed figure. Okay, that's quite useful. Like I said, it does reinforce the fact that in Waterloo it was a coalition victory. We haven't got any Prussians. At this scale that probably wouldn't be appropriate, but putting in some Dutch Belgians, Hanoverians, Nassau, it gives you a bit more of a feel for the nature of the army. We've then got the cavalry, okay, which is a light cavalry. The chasseurs à cheval, which I'm probably mangling with my French. I've not studied French since I was in school. So we've got 2 horses and 2 riders per frame. We've got a variety of heads. We've got 2 with the plume on the top, 2 without, and 1 grenadier head, because they had a grenadier company in each cavalry unit. I got the swords and the saddlebags there. So we've got, get it straight, 12 of those. So we actually have the correct number of that according to the box. Should have said with the Hanoverian, with 5 on a frame, and having 5 sprues, you've got an extra figure there as well. So I hate to say this for the French, they're stacking the odds against you by giving a few British and Allied figures there. So the cavalry look nice. The horses I'm just looking at, I'm kind of guessing they do look like you could actually swap the sides onto each one. If that's the case, that gives you a few more horse variations, because that's always going to be a problem with this. And your riders, again, different heads, slightly different sword arms. You're going to get enough variation for 12. I think more than 12 you'd be struggling. We've then got some dice, six dice. Okay, that's perfectly adequate for this. We've got the metal parts. Let's take those out into there. Now what you have with this one, you've got a commanding officer for each side on foot. Very lovely French officer there. The old bicorn hat. I think he would be usable right the way through the wars, probably even back to the Revolutionary Wars. So I don't know what metal they are, because it says they're not lead. I'm assuming it's like a pewter or something similar. Yeah, he's quite a nice figure, very inspiring, sort of almost like a Ney type figure, I think, that one. Then we've got the British officer, lovely caricature, leaning on an umbrella, smoking a cigar. I love it. That is a lovely personality figure. That is going to get used in skirmish games, definitely. Okay, then we come to the artillery. We've got I think it's a 6-pounder. I'm not an expert. Simple enough little gun to put together by the look of it. Interestingly, with this one, the crew, on the front of the box you have Royal Horse Artillery with the tarleton hats, but these are foot artillery, which is better because they were much more common. And we've got 4 crew figures there. Yeah, I quite like this guy looking off into the distance. It's, as a friend of mine would have put it, that's probably a second lieutenant or ensign in this period, trying to find his way. Yeah, I can see the logic for that. There is always a saying in the British Army that the most dangerous weapon the British Army has is an officer with a map. And then we've got the bases. Now, I haven't looked into the basing requirements for these. I know that black powder is very flexible. Let's look how many we've got. 1, 2, 3. So there's enough on there to base. I've lost track now. 12 lots of 4 figures, so 48 figures. So one is going to do your French, one is going to do your British, half. We've got a slightly different one there. I'm guessing that's for the cavalry. So we've got your Hanoverian, and then you've got your artillery and the cavalry. Cavalry are going to use a full one of these. So yeah, looks like you've got enough bases, possibly a couple over. You're definitely not under. So that's what we've got in the box. Now, that's a lot of plastic, an awful lot of plastic. It's also, being Napoleonic, not going to be the simplest to paint, so don't expect too many battle reports with painted figures in the near future. It's going to unfortunately go in a bit into the lead mountain and plastic mountain. I do wonder sometimes just how much I have. I remember many years ago someone saying you're not a proper wargamer unless you've got your whole body weight of unpainted figures. Yeah, I'm not exactly a small person, and most of my figures are plastic, but I still think I meet that definition. I do find that worrying. So there's a lot in there. Value for money is absolutely phenomenal, as are virtually all of Warlord's starter sets. They do them for other periods as well. I know there's a Zulu one, there's an English Civil War one, I think there's an American War of Independence, but there are quite a few starter sets that they do. depends which purge you want. The only thing I wish they did was a peninsula one. I am much more into the peninsula than Waterloo, but this is a chance to convert me on that, I suppose. As a set, content, like I said, contents are massively impressive. You can't move for the plastic. The rule book, even if you actually didn't use the rules, just bought this and wanted to play something else, you've got a good start. A good start. When it comes to the figures, I think the only downside is that lack of command figures. It's not critical, and I suppose if they'd added metal command figures, it would have upped the cost. So yeah, I suppose I can see the logic for not doing them. But you know, Warlord, you've done a fantastic job again. Very user-friendly starter set. The only thing I can see being an issue is the fact that you need the large tables. I do think that black powder is not ideally a beginner's set of rules because you need the large tables. I tend to game on something, in fact, not much bigger than this. This is a regular gaming table for me. You'd never get it on there. Probably I should look at the new epic scale version that they have, which is smaller figures, smaller playing area as a result. But it is what it is. Like I say, I really bought it for the figures, but I'm going to try the rules and see how they go. See you soon for a future review.